Lunch with Lyra.
My name is Renee Calloway, and for 3 years straight, I worked 57-hour weeks like my life depended on it. Maybe it did. I was 25, broke, exhausted, and stupidly loyal to a company that treated burnout like a badge of honor. The morning everything shifted, I walked into the CEO's glass office with my hands sweating through my sleeves. "I'd like to discuss a raise," I said, voice steady only because I practiced in the mirror for days. He didn't even look up from his tablet. "Renee," he sighed, "we're like family here. And family doesn't demand money."
Family.
That word hit harder than any insult. I stood there, heart pounding, realizing he wasn't just denying me. He was dismissing the 57-hour weeks, the weekends lost, the birthdays missed, the sleep I hadn't truly felt in months. So I smiled. A quiet, dangerous smile. "Understood," I said. By the end of the day, I submitted my 2-week notice and started working exactly 40 hours. Not a minute more. And in that single decision, a billion-dollar project began to die. The moment my 2-week notice hit HR's inbox, the office energy shifted, subtle at first, then unmistakable. People who used to toss work onto my desk like I was a machine suddenly watched me like I was a ticking bomb. Maybe I was. For the first time in 3 years, I clocked out at 5 p.m. sharp. No late nights. No skipped lunches. No quick tasks disguised as unpaid overtime. My team didn't know how to function without my silent sacrifices. The cracks started showing by day 2. Slack channels exploded with frantic messages. Developers panicked over bugs I usually fixed at midnight. Marketing begged for numbers I used to generate before coffee, even brewed. The CEO pretended not to notice, but his assistants did. They whispered every time I walked past, like they knew what was coming but couldn't say it out loud. Meanwhile, I focused on my actual 40-hour tasks only. Nothing extra. Nothing heroic. The thing about being the invisible backbone is simple. People don't realize you're holding everything together until you stop. And on day 4 of my notice, the project's foundation began to crumble. By the end of the first week, everyone finally understood the truth I'd been silently carrying for years. The entire project ran because I refused to break. And now that I wasn't breaking anymore, everything else was. Deadlines slid. Numbers dipped. Clients started asking uncomfortable questions. Meanwhile, I walked into work each morning with a calmness that scared people. I brought breakfast. I wore lipstick. I even laughed because for once, I had energy left for myself. But the CEO? He was unraveling. He called an emergency meeting, pacing the conference room like someone had stolen his spine. "Why are we behind schedule?" he demanded, voice sharp enough to cut glass. No one spoke, because everyone knew the answer. Finally, one developer muttered, "Renee used to handle all this." His jaw clenched. Then someone else should have learned. I leaned back in my chair, letting him choke on the irony. He wanted a family? Families teach. He built a dependency. And now the entire system was collapsing under the weight of his arrogance. When the meeting ended, he pulled me aside. "Renee, you wouldn't let this fail. Not after everything you've built." I looked him dead in the eyes. "Watch me." The second week of my notice felt like watching a skyscraper tilt in slow motion. Everyone praying it wouldn't fall. Everyone knowing it absolutely would. The CEO started showing up earlier than the cleaning staff, hair uncombed, tie crooked, pretending he still had control. He hovered near my desk like a nervous shadow. "Renee, can we revisit the compensation conversation?" he finally asked, voice soft enough to sound almost human. I didn't even turn from my screen. I already gave my decision. He exhaled shakily. "You're letting emotions get in the way of your career." I finally faced him then. 3 years of unpaid overtime wasn't emotional? His mouth opened, then closed. No answer. By Wednesday, clients were calling nonstop. The main investor requested a progress demo, one the team had no way to deliver without my undocumented fixes, shortcuts, and emergency scripts. I'd been their safety net, their invisible shield, the quiet genius no one credited. Now, they were free-falling. Rumors spread across the office. The project wouldn't survive. Investors were furious. A cancellation was on the table. And still I stayed silent. Because the hardest revenge is simply walking away. Friday morning arrived like a storm. Not outside. The skies were clear, but inside the office, the air vibrated with panic. People rushed between cubicles, clutching laptops like life preservers. A project worth millions was collapsing in real time. My inbox overflowed with messages marked urgent, critical, please respond. I ignored all of them. At 11:32 a.m., the CEO burst into the open workspace, face flushed, eyes wild. Everyone froze. "Where's Renee?" he demanded. I raised my hand calmly from my corner desk. He stormed over. "You have to help us. The investor is coming in an hour. We can't show them this disaster." I took a slow breath, the kind people take before changing their entire life. "I'm working my assigned tasks," I said. "Nothing more." His voice cracked. "Please. You're the only one who understands the system end to end." He expected guilt. He expected loyalty. But he forgot something. Loyalty without respect isn't loyalty. It's exploitation. "I asked for a raise," I said. "You called this place a family." He swallowed hard. "I was wrong." "Yes," I said softly. "You were." And the clock kept ticking toward their downfall. The investor arrived at 1:07 p.m., a tall man in a steel gray suit whose silence carried more weight than the CEO's entire vocabulary. He walked past my desk without a glance, heading straight to the conference room where the team had scrambled together a half-functioning demo. I didn't go with them. I simply watched through the glass wall as the CEO clicked through the presentation, hands trembling. Slide after slide broke. Charts failed to load. One feature crashed so loudly even people in accounting turned their heads. The investor leaned back, unimpressed. 3 years, he said quietly. 3 years of funding. And this is what you bring me? The CEO stammered excuses. We recently lost someone critical. She gave notice unexpectedly. The investor's gaze shifted to me. Is that her? I held his stare. No apology. No guilt. Just truth. She worked unpaid overtime for years. Someone blurted, desperate to redirect blame. She carried the whole project. The investor's expression hardened. Then you didn't lose an employee, he said. You lost the company's backbone. He closed his laptop. This project is dead. And the CEO's face collapsed. The news spread through the office like wildfire. The project is canceled. The investor pulled everything. We're done. People stared at me, not with anger, not with blame, but with a dawning understanding of the truth. I hadn't destroyed the project. They had, by building it on unpaid labor and calling it family. When I returned to my desk, the CEO appeared again, but this time he didn't look furious. He looked hollow. Renee, he said quietly, can we talk somewhere private? I stood. No. He blinked, stunned by the simplicity of it. We treated you unfairly, he said. But couldn't you have warned us? Helped us transition? You know what this failure means. I nodded. Calm. Cold. I know exactly what it means, I replied. For 3 years, I was the only safety net you had. You just never noticed until it snapped. His voice cracked. You could have told me you felt this way. I did, I said. Every time I stayed late. Every time I worked overtime without complaint. Every time I held the company together through sheer exhaustion. That was me telling you. He covered his face with both hands. But the truth was unstoppable now. My last day arrived on a quiet Tuesday. No farewell cake. No awkward card. No forced smiles. Just silence, a heavy, undeniable silence from people who finally understood what I'd carried on my back for 3 years. I packed my things slowly, deliberately. A photo frame. A plant. The mug I bought during my first week, still chipped from all the nights it kept me awake. With each item placed in the box, a weight lifted, not from my shoulders, but from my identity. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I wasn't their invisible engine. I wasn't their family. As I walked toward the exit, the CEO hurried out of his office, breathless. Renee, wait. His voice wasn't angry. It was small. I never realized how much you did. I paused at the door. Not to forgive. Not to comfort. But to say the one truth he needed to hear. That was the problem. When I stepped outside, the sunlight felt different. Not brighter. Mine. Behind me, the company scrambled to survive the fallout of losing me. Ahead of me, a future where my worth would never again be paid in family.
Với kỳ việc của cả màu vàng năm 9 con rồi. Mình